Hey ink drinkers, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new. Today I am going to share all the things I got into in January. The books, the movies, the shows, and the music. Let's start with the books I read. The first book I finished in January was The Heart Taker by A.M. Wiley. So this was an ARC that I received, or a review copy I should say, because it was already published by the time I read it. And I read this on my Kindle. Because I discussed The Heart Taker and 3 other books in a previous video, I will keep my thoughts short. You can go back and check out that video if you'd like to know more. Heart Taker follows a teenage gossip columnist that is kind of looking into some murders that happened the next town over, and weird things start happening when a new girl arrives at their school. So I'll leave it there. It was a fun read. I really enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars, and I look forward to reading more by this author. The next 2 books kind of tie into each other. They were both written by C.F. Page, and if you've been around my channel or my Instagram any length of time, you know I'm a huge C.F. Page fan, fellow Michigander, and he wrote one of my all-time favorite books, Native Fear. So if you have not checked out his work, I highly recommend it. Native Fear is my favorite so far, but he has written some really great things. So the first book that I read in January by C.F. Page was Born of Blood. This is a cosmic murder mystery novella that ties into the next book that I read, The Swallowed Town. And The Swallowed Town, I have a physical copy, but it does not have the cover on it because I received it as an very early ARC, and I absolutely loved it. I know he's made changes since putting out that original ARC copy, so I definitely want to check out the changes that he's made, but it was perfect as is in my book. I absolutely loved it. So The Swallowed Town is a cosmic horror with lighthouse killings, and follows this freelance journalist that is investigating these mysterious killings. So I will leave that there as well. I discussed both of these books in a previous video, and I will be sure to link that video below so you can check it out if you'd like to know more. I also read Frankenstein. I do have a physical copy of that as well, but I lent it to one of my daughters and really excited for her to read it. We also watched the movie back in, was it November when it came out? Absolutely loved it, and I will talk more about that in a minute. Now on to the books that I have not yet discussed on this channel. Another one of my all-time favorite indie authors, Robert Weaver, sent me a copy of The Apocalypse Chapters, which is a collection of, let me see how many, 16 short stories slash flash fiction set during the zombie apocalypse, and you get different perspectives from these different stories. Awesome, awesome book. I will definitely be rereading this in May for the Zombie-thon that Kat's Novel Adventures puts on, and you'll hear a lot about that coming up as well. The last book that I finished in January was Wuthering Heights. Now, I went into this kind of with high expectations because I know people that absolutely love this story. Of course, I didn't know about the movie when my daughter and I decided to read this for her literature class for our homeschooling, and so it just was kind of a happy coincidence. Yes, I do plan on seeing this newest adaptation, but not in the theaters. I think I'd rather just wait until it comes out on a streaming service that I have or something like that. So I'll watch it eventually, maybe. We'll see. I have kind of mixed feelings about Wuthering Heights. I absolutely loved the setting. I loved the whole vibe of the story. I loved Emily Bronte's writing style. I really enjoyed so much about it, but I just could not stand any of the characters. There was one character maybe that I didn't have like feelings toward. But no one stood out as a favorite character. No one stood out as a good person. They all seemed to be really selfish, gossipy, just kind of out to further themselves and their success or whatever their desires may be without thinking of other people. Now, of course, there are exceptions to that rule, but that's the gist of my feelings toward the characters. So I ended up giving this book 3 stars. Maybe could have given it 4, but the characters really did get under my skin. So it's a 3-star read for me. I am currently reading a book called Tears of Amber that is set during World War II, and it is just absolutely pulling at my heartstrings. Love this style of writing. It's taking me quite a long time to get through it because I just have to stop and kind of reflect every once in a while. And of course, being a mom and kind of adapting to a new routine because, you know, life is ever changing, it's been kind of a challenge to carve out a whole ton of reading time. So my reading has slowed at this point, but I am really enjoying this. It's hard to read. It definitely hits a nerve. You can see kind of current happenings tying into things that happened during World War II without going too far into it. There's just a whole lot that seems a little too familiar and a little too uncomfortable. And so I think this is probably an important read for many people to pick up. I can't remember how I came across this. I have it on my Kindle. It might have been an Amazon First Reads option. I'm not sure. It might be a little early to say, but so far, even at 30% in, I'm really kind of leaning towards wanting to get a physical copy to have on my shelf so I can read it again. It's a good study of that time period. It seems to be accurate from all that I know about World War II and that time period. But it's interesting hearing from different perspectives. It follows a couple different families. There's a German family that is running a farm, and so the father hasn't had to go to war at this point because they need him to grow the food for the soldiers. And then there's also the perspective from a Polish man or boy. I can't really get a handle on whether he's like a teenager or a fully grown man. I'm kind of thinking he's grown. It's hard to say. But then he seems a little bit like a teenager as far as his interactions with the kids go. So I don't know. And it's not like weird. It's just, I'm trying to navigate that. I might have missed something when I was reading. Could have been distracted. There's lots of squirrels in my life. So it's interesting to hear from both sides. It's interesting to hear from a child's perspective of not knowing what's happening and being really scared and being sent away from their parents for safety precautions. It's interesting hearing from a soldier's perspective, which sounds really scary, especially considering what all went on. It's definitely early on in the story, so we'll see how it goes. But I am, if you could say, enjoying it. The writing style is beautiful. The descriptions are just absolutely stunning. You can really get a sense of how these characters are feeling. You really feel for the characters. So I'm getting kind of teary-eyed. It's really a beautifully written book, and it's just a really tough subject to think about, to discuss, to read about. And so we'll see what I think when I come to the end of that. On to the movies I watched for the month of January. I watched bits and pieces of several movies because my kids like to watch movies quite often. But movies that I really sat down and watched this month were few, very few. I watched 4 movies total this month. The first that I finished was Requiem for a Dream. Now this took me maybe like 2 or 3 sittings, probably 3. I thought I had seen it back in the day, but I really did not remember a whole lot about it. And knowing this movie now, You would think that I would have remembered, but maybe I blocked it out of my memory. I remembered a couple scenes, and it could be that I just saw previews or something like that, but I swear I had watched this. And it is a wonderfully done movie, but I am never watching it again. Never. It just hit too many nerves. It was too familiar in certain ways as far as that time period goes, and diet culture and all that stuff. But it was so well done, and bravo to everyone involved in that movie. I just never want to see it again. It was too much for me. Great for one viewing, but too much for any more. So that was my one, possibly two experiences with this movie. Moving on. My daughter and I also rewatched Frankenstein. We watched it back in November when it first came out, and then we watched it again in January. I wanted to watch it after reading Frankenstein so I could kind of compare and contrast the movie and the book, and absolutely loved the book, but I love the changes that Del Toro made for the movie. I think they worked really well for the screen. I am like 99% happy with that movie, and I'm glad that we went to rewatch it, because the first time I watched it, I had come home from a long day out, we'll just put it that way, working, and I was super tired, so I had fallen asleep during a really crucial part that I didn't realize I had fallen asleep for. I thought I just kind of closed my eyes for a minute. And it was a lot longer than I thought. So I'm glad we rewatched it. Loved the movie even more after seeing it from start to finish without any interruptions. It was amazing. I love it. You cannot go wrong with a Del Toro movie. Honestly, my favorite director. It's got to be. He's just amazing. I also gave Blue Velvet a try. I had never seen Blue Velvet, and again, really loved the style. I liked the gist of it, but there were, like, the antagonist was just kind of triggering for me. I know that triggering is thrown around kind of a lot these days, but for lack of a better word, he triggered me. I did not like him at all, which obviously you're not supposed to. But there was a lot involved in this movie that felt like too much. It's another one of those movies. I'm glad I watched it. It was beautifully done. I don't want to watch it again. I also wanted to watch Mulholland Drive, and I started that and I need to finish it. So far that's going much better than Blue Velvet did. I know Blue Velvet is a beloved movie for many people. It was a little bit too much for me in certain ways. It's hard to talk about without getting super personal, and I don't want to do that. But it was really well done, and highly recommend it if you can stomach certain things. Just if you are worried about any specific subject matter, any specific triggers, just go ahead and reach out and I will discuss it with you. But I know it's an older movie and it can't really be spoiled that badly, but you know, I was one of those that hadn't seen it and probably would have benefited from having a heads up for certain things. So the last movie that I finished this month was Sinners, and oh my gosh, I absolutely loved this movie. The music, the setting, the characters, just everything was amazing. I loved it all. Loved it all. 5 stars. 5 stars. Love it. So if you have not seen Sinners, I highly recommend it. Sinners and Frankenstein, hands down, the best movies I've seen in a long time. And I couldn't recommend them enough. So definitely check them both out if you haven't yet. If you like vampires and southern vibes and a little history mixed in with your movies, definitely check out Sinners. Music as well. If you like more of a gothic vibe and the classics and you want the most stunning visuals, check out Frankenstein. Amazing. You cannot go wrong with either one, in my humble opinion. But of course, that's my opinion. And I have certain tastes, and both of those movies nailed my tastes. On to the shows that I've been watching. So I am a big comfort watcher. And so a couple of the shows I've been watching, I'm not even going to bother putting a template together or whatever because I watch them so much. Doesn't even need to be highlighted, but I've been watching Grey's Anatomy and Gilmore Girls with one of my daughters because she is also a fan of comfort shows. So that's what we've been doing. I also finished Stranger Things with some of my family, and season 5 is not my favorite. I enjoyed it for the most part, just would have really liked an ending that didn't feel so rushed and so slapped together. Sorry, I said it, but it's that's just how I feel. I love the series as a whole, and I just wish certain parts of the ending would have been different. I like certain parts. I thought that was like they wrapped it up pretty well in certain ways. But there's just season 5 felt like kind of it didn't feel complete, and I don't know how to explain that without spoiling it. There's certain things that I am certain I would have liked if it was done differently, and then there's other things that I just can't put my finger on. Certain things that are missing from season 5. Seasons 1 through 4, love, love, love. Season 2 is probably my second to last season in the ratings. I think season 1 is probably the best. 3 and 4, awesome. Absolutely love this show. So we are rewatching it. I have one daughter who's a fan of it from beginning to end, like super fan, far beyond anything that I am, and I really enjoy this show. So we're rewatching it with another kid that's old enough to start watching it now, and I'm so glad we're doing this rewatch because I am remembering why I loved it so much, because it felt just so different in season 5. I don't know. Anyway, love Stranger Things. Will always be a fan of Stranger Things, but season 5 could have been better. I also finished season 1 of Pluribus with my oldest son, and this is such an amazing show. It's my standout show for the month. Obviously, everything else is a rewatch, so we can't go by much, but it's such a great show. Visually, the storyline is fascinating. The acting is great. I am loving it. So I am kind of on the edge of my seat and a little bit disappointed that we have no time frame for season 2, but it's okay. It'll come. But this show follows a woman named Carol. She is a novelist, and she is navigating kind of a new, strange world. Everyone has kind of become infected with an alien life form, a virus. We aren't quite sure what's going on, but there's like this hive mind. Everyone in the world except for 13 people. And so it's kind of following her journey in figuring out what the heck is going on, figuring out how to bring things back to the way they were, figuring out how to avoid becoming one of these people because they are very determined to bring her into the hive. And so it's been an interesting and fun and exciting journey to follow Carol's steps through all of this. So if you're into that type of thing, it was by the same creators, directors, I can't remember, as Breaking Bad. So you've got that kind of like a similar vibe as far as styling goes. And so I really, really like it. It is on Apple TV, which is not something that I personally get, but my son gets it. So we watch some things on there together, and that has been a lot of fun. Really, really like it. I do have to say, Carol's not the most likable character, but I get why she's being stubborn and kind of upset over everything. So while she isn't the most likable main character you'd ever meet, it is understandable. So you kind of feel for her, you know? All right, so this next bit is kind of a new thing I'm doing. I am doing kind of more focused listening on my favorite bands. Now I have an idea in mind to start a new series for YouTube to further dive into these bands that I love and discuss them in a certain way. And that's all I want to give you right now. But the band that I am currently focusing on is Mastodon. I absolutely love this band, and I hadn't listened to all their albums, so this has been a lot of fun to listen to the earlier works that I know I did listen to because my husband was into them way back when, but I didn't get into them until later on. I don't know why. You know, your tastes change as you evolve, I guess. I don't know. I didn't dislike them. I just didn't get into them. I was more into Korn back in those days, Breaking Benjamin, things like that. But still, I'm a creature of habit, so it takes a lot for me to embrace new things. But Mastodon is one of my all-time favorite bands at this point in life, and so I'm excited to be listening to all of their songs. I've listened to 5 or 6 albums at this point, and I'd like to finish all of their albums and their EP, and then we'll discuss and we'll do this new series, and you'll learn more about it when I post the first video. All right, I think that is it from me for the month of January. I've got some fun things ahead for February. I am loosely participating in the Gothic Hearts Reading Challenge. There's a whole slew of hosts for that. I did post a short of the books that I'd like to read for the month of February if you're interested in checking that out. I also plan to loosely participate in Folklore February, and then I've got a couple of books that are more of personal choices that I'd like to read. So there's about 8 books in my pile of possibilities, and I'm excited to dive in and see what resonates with me in the month of February. No specific plans for movies or shows. I mean, besides finishing shows that we're currently watching, but I'm hoping February is a good month. I feel like life is kind of looking up at this point, and I'm really grateful for that personal life. Obviously, there's a whole world of chaos and evil going on around us, but we are finally getting to a place where I feel like I can breathe, so I'm really grateful for that. Hence returning to YouTube. I did take quite a long break. I think it was like 6 months, just to kind of survive. We were in survival mode, and it was just a lot easier to post on Instagram and not have to put my face out there so much and talk and whatnot. But I am back, and I'm really happy to be here, and I am looking forward to February. So let me know what you got into in January and what you're looking forward to most in February. Hope you guys are taking it easy, treating yourselves with kindness, and being gentle to yourselves and each other. And I hope you guys have an amazing February. Until next time, cheers.